compensated pretty well. And you take a look at it, and if she wanted to move back here, she'd either have to have a roommate or, live with several people, or, and not that that's not a rite of passage. We all did it when we finished college. But they take a look at it, and they're looking and going, California, Memphis, geez, it's a little bit easier to live in Memphis. And there's a couple of components that come back to it also. There's also the environmental side. And you talk about some of the things you can clean up that would really be helpful. I went to a discussion with the Air Quality Management District, and these are the folks that are, we've got to be recycling. We've got to be composting. We've got to make sure that we take those grass clippings. They don't go into the ocean. We pile them up, we compost, and we send them back out. That same organization is now going to some of the large waste haulers and saying, well, when your stuff composts, it's creating methane and chlorofluorocarbons and other things, and it's sticking them in the atmosphere, so we're going to fine you for that. So we.
There's a fight.
So I'm an engineer, and I know that you can't do one thing to one side of an equation and not do it to the other. We can't be like double hitting people. Say, please do this. And the one that cracks me up is they'll go into a hospital and say, you need to treat every patient. Treat every patient. They come in, drop down, heart-lung transplant, go ahead and get them done. And then they say, all right, we do the heart-lung transplant. It's $300,000. Send the bill to the state. And they go, well, we're not going to pay you. And then they say, well, we're going to shut down. And the state comes down and says, no, you can't. There have got to be, and these aren't, I guess my frustration is these aren't difficult problems to explain to people. I am perplexed why we do not have people in the state of California that don't have the simple common sense to be able to solve just some of them. Just one of these problems, if they could just start knocking them down. And I think maybe that's the biggest thing we can look for. If we could point to something. When I was talking to the head of AQMD, I asked him point blank, I said, tell me one job that you have saved in the state of California. His response, my staff will get back to you. Wrong. If we don't have at least the basics of some simple answers to some very simple questions, all of our conversations are novel but not pertinent.
I have a thought on that, and I am going to have to leave early because I have an open house for my district. Come on down. It's right down the street. Starts at 4:30. But what I think is going to be helpful, what I'm seeing, and I've been 30 years in banking and corporate finance, come from the private world, and I'm up there, and I see people flipping constantly. The term limits has absolutely killed the legislature. It's diminished the legislature's power, and the legislature does these big grand bills, and then they leave, and it gets passed off to an agency. And the agency's first reaction is to be extremely rigid in how they apply the regulations. And I think that with the potential for 12 years for members to be there, because the first 2 years, I'll be honest, first 2 years looking for the bathrooms and the rooms. Second 2 years, you're finally doing something, and the legislature actually know what you're doing into your committees. Last 2 years looking for a job. That is no way to run a state. You've got 120 people that are basically your board of directors reporting to the governor that flip constantly. And there's no time for any institutional knowledge, and there's no time to form, to get on an issue. You've got to hit the ground running when you get there. You better come with something, and because you're going to be moving the whole time and fundraising continually. So I think that may be where we can start to influence certain members with a little more that are going to be around a little longer. That's just a hope of mine, because I think right now the legislature is dysfunctional because there's no institutional knowledge at all.
Without holding you hostage, because I know that you have to go to an open house, there was one question that I was hoping to get to the group, and I'll advance it a little bit.
I got 10 minutes.
In order, okay, great. This might take 10 minutes to answer. But with California's unemployment rate currently hovering at around 9.8, 9.7%, slightly above the national average, which as of today was down a couple of ticks to 7.7%. Orange County remains an anomaly with an average unemployment rate of around 7.1, 7.2%. Traditionally, Orange County has been fairly insulated from prolonged recessions. However, Los Angeles County, on the other hand, has been as high as 12% recently and is currently hovering at around 10%. What are we in Orange County doing right? How can we sustain this trend? And maybe what about Orange County is so unique that possibly can't be replicated anywhere else? Diane, would you like to start? Put you on the spot a little.
No, I welcome that. I think that we have a very, even if we happen to be of one party or another, we have a very conservative financial mindset. We are entrepreneurial. We enjoy the freedoms we have. We like San Diego is another area that is very much like the Orange County mindset. It's the Southern California university and business environment. I mean, we are entrepreneurial, and I think that's a big difference. It's just there's a freedom aspect to all of us, and or to the majority of us. And I think our taxation policies are probably very reasonable. Our county is very well run financially, as is San Diego County. We do have the universities, the big universities, which provide hubs, and the community college systems. And we are not heavily union dominated, which is unlike LA. LA is very union dominated. So that's more of a group mindset versus an individual entrepreneurial mindset. I think it's very much a cultural and a financial understanding, whatever. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, you might want to stay a little while longer, Diane. But anyways, I think you have to make a distinction between the Orange County government and Orange County private enterprise. And I think that the private enterprise side has done very well. Some of it's just we shouldn't pat ourselves on the back too much, because some of it was accidental. This was a boom area, high housing values, a lot of wealth created. A lot of it lost, by the way, in the Citron debacle, the bankruptcy, which was, playing with, what other community in the country had, $2 billion to play around with in the stock market, because you had all these developer fees building up and reserves being built. So, it was, and that was not an example of good government. When it comes to public employee pensions, Orange County's been as generous as anyone. All these good Republicans voting, putting the, we're going to make 8% in the stock market, don't worry about it, and, everybody will make out. So there hasn't been I haven't seen any great wisdom. There's been a few very courageous, outstanding politicians coming out of Orange County, but for the most part, I think they've been pretty much the same. So I think it's good planning. I know a lot of people, have complaints with the Irvine Company, but they did a wonderful planned community. You've seen it here in South County, parts even of Anaheim. So there's been some intelligent planning over the years, so I think some of it's good luck, and I think we have been blessed in Orange County, but I wouldn't really attribute it to the brilliance. I'm not saying you were saying that, Diane, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's. Yeah, I agree. There is an entrepreneurial spirit, but it's not because of government wisdom, in my opinion.
No.
I agree.
But we elect pretty good people.
We do. I think we are.
We do.
One or two represented here on the panel.
Our county's well run. It's in good
Bob
shape.
Citron, the bankruptcy.
Bob Citron, we worked out of that, didn't we? Did we default? No. We filed a reorganizational bankruptcy to keep a run, so we wouldn't have a run on the county's assets.
We lost our chips.
We paid it off. It's all but paid, but a few bits. We refinanced it, and actually, so we could early pay it. We're in good shape. Just because you file for reorganizational, sometimes that's the wise thing to do, so that you can reorganize your books, figure out what happened. And Bob Citron went away, didn't he?
Well,
poor guy. He didn't know. He got hosed by the Wall Street guys.
Yes and no, but if you
lower their assumption rate to 5.5%, and I was talking to a board of the member, a guy that runs on OSERS, and he was very proud that he got it from 7 3/4 to 7.5.
Oh, and by the way, you're hitting the nail on the head. If you've ever read the story about how Enron went down, what's it called, Ship of Fools? It is what happened with the bankruptcy. I was actually on a school board when that happened, and what Rick was saying was exactly true. We had people that were all good Republican, nice guys. Absolutely none of them qualified to handle a budget of that size. And I'm saying this as an elected official. I'm an engineer, but I certainly would have worked up to trying to want to work on that large a budget. But you kind of hit the nail on the head. we continue to deceive ourselves. The reason why OSERS and the pensions formula, and by the way, we got ahead of this in Mission Viejo. I'm going to do a little back padding.
See,
we got ahead of
elected
this.
people.
We got ahead of it about 4 or 5 years ago, and we actually started. Our pensions were spiked in Mission Viejo by my predecessors. We've gone through a process where in 15 years we're going to pay it down actuarially. Forget what OSERS says. We will have it paid down in the city. But what everybody else is doing is they're keeping it at 7.75% that they say that's what they're going to guess how much the rate of return is going to be. The reason they do it is because if they move it, well, here's the kicker. If they move it, then probably a third of all the cities up and down the state, including most of LA, San Francisco, Oakland, and up in that area, they would be in technical default. And now you'll be able to pay their bills. So yeah, we are, just as Rick said, we are fooling ourselves, and we don't have people stepping up saying, we've got to do something else, because if they did, then that municipal bankruptcy here back in the East Coast would be all over California.
How many of you, though, I'm just going to ask, how many of you really cared about pensions 10 years ago? Couple people. No, I don't think, I don't believe that, because it was not a hot topic until just over the past 5 years. And I will say that when I got elected, nobody understood pensions. They don't put you through pension school when you're on the city council. And I actually got on the OSERS calculator to figure out what it all meant. And all I could see was if you got this, it meant this many dollars. And I knew it was huge. So I held everything at 2, at 55 or 60, and I would not allow an increase only because of the dollars at the end. But I never understood, nor did I have any concept of what the pension really was. And it's just been recently we've gotten just a flood of information, and books are written. And I think that the people now are a little bit more savvy. Do they want to immediately go and lower their rate of return so that they're upside down? I don't think so. And the state is not doing that either. But I do think we all know it's there. And as we go forward, I think in our cities we're taking care of it. I know the counties were looking at it. He's looked at it. Other cities, San Juan Capistrano's lowered theirs for new people. Everybody's looking at it now, and that's a good thing, because if you get elected to any kind of city, you don't know everything. You don't come in with a full breadth of knowledge. And I had banking and corporate finance and economics degree, but I did not understand pensions.
Pensions are only available in the public entities anyhow.
Right, so I knew not. That's right.
I mean, there's a real, it's small businesses, it's their responsibility to have their employees educated to start taking care of their own retirement.
The thing is, we have a question back here.
Yeah, I'm Mark Goodman. I became mayor the night they announced that the county went bankrupt, Laguna Niguel. So I think you guys remember Bill Talley. That was well over 10 years ago, the spiking. My fear is that public pensions, the unfunded liabilities, are so far out that we're all of us here that don't work for a governmental agency, we're going to be paying our taxes to pay for people's retirements who are no longer working. Now, I'm no mathematician, I'm a political science major, but it doesn't take an Einstein to look at the fact that the actuarial tables that our pensions are based on are antiquated. People are living much longer now. And if you read Michio Kaku, a physicist, you learn about the medical advances, the crash of the Silicon Valley that is coming within 8 to 10 years, because Moore's law is going to explode, and there will be no doubling of computers. That hit on the state. The very fact that we're going through what seemingly nobody even understands, we have a contracted period of job impacts similar to the Industrial Revolution that occurred over 50 to 100 years, which caused major tumult in Europe and here. Nobody's looking at it. Everybody's kind of like chasing flies. And I don't see the state government, anybody really addressing these issues, and we're going to hit a hard wall in 5 to 6 years.
I was told to keep this positive. And so I will tell you,
So how do we triangulate that between the individual, the small business person, and of course some of,
Well, I think the policies in the state are definitely hurting the business. I do think the pensions, we've got the boomers coming through, we're the big bulge in the snake. And it's really going to be a problem going forward. I think you're right on. You're spot on. 1999, the pensions that were established in the state of California, for which now we are all paying for, 1999 was bipartisan. There were only 4 people in the Assembly that voted against it, and it went through the Senate on consent calendar. Consent calendar. Nobody even looked at it, read it, or cared about it. That's how it moved through. So that was in 1999. Nobody, I don't think elected people had the knowledge, because I know a lot of people who voted and were in that House. If you look at the 1999 roster, you'll see. And so, it's a sad thing. It's something we do have to work with, but it's not being tended to. I'll be the first to admit it's not being tended to. And this governor made a little chip, but it didn't fix anything. It absolutely zero. But I don't see any movement in that area. And so I'm kind of like trying to stay off of that for small businesses right now, because it's not a good picture, and it won't be a good picture. But I do think if we can increase employment, it'll take some of the people off of the social service side, such that we can kind of muddle through a little while longer. And I just don't want to see more businesses fleeing the state. So whatever we can do to increase the opportunities at the state, we need to. And but we keep electing, for some reason, a lot of the same party. And I'm not supposed to be partisan, but I'm telling you, it's extremely lopsided, extremely controlled, and you can talk to me till you're blue in the face. I have no power to change anything for you, but I am very vocal. I am an advocate, and I'm a bull in a china closet. So I get attention to huge issues like high-speed rail, like our debt structure, like our budget situation, like the cap and trade. I deal with all financial issues, and that's how I work for you. And I am recognized. I'm on all the financial committees, and I do change the debate, but I can't change the policies. I need votes to change the policies. So no, I'm not taking it personally. Believe me, it's not personal. This stuff is real, and you're raising real concerns. Real concerns. I just
when you asked how many of us were concerned about pensions 10 years ago, I didn't raise my hand. I would today, because I'm 10 years older.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, back in 2002, John Morlock, then county treasurer, now county supervisor, who had also warned about the bankruptcy 8 years before that, warned when the supervisors, the all-Republican, I believe, Board of Supervisors approved the enhanced pensions for the county employees. He said, this is a mistake. And so there were people, but again, it gets to something that hasn't even been discussed, which are the power of the special interests. And while I do think the open primary might have a positive result, some of these other things, longer terms, softening the term limits might help. Until you change the basic power structure and the people who control Sacramento, that's is not going to change the reality. And in fact, what the legislature is doing, you would think now, the perverse thing is, one way to get out from under these pensions is for a lot of cities to go bankrupt, and then they can redo the pension arrangements, and that's a horrible, terrible thing, but it might be better than taxpayers going broke. But the legislature is making it harder. That their first instinct is not to say we have a problem with pensions, how do we get it under control? It's how do we protect the pensions? And so they've actually made it harder for cities to file. But eventually, something's got to give. And I think somewhere, some judge is going to make a ruling somewhere that will provide a way for cities. And once that happens, then the unions will come to the table and everybody will negotiate, and the problem will start to get solved. Citizens might also pass initiatives, which then will be challenged in court, but there could be citizen movements. But the chances of the California legislature doing anything are almost nil.
Yeah.
Let's get down to some bread and butter issues. What can business owners do right now before the end of the tax year to position themselves as well as possible come tax time? Any insights from the panel?
Well, most of our business owners have already, had the plan, trying to understand what was going to happen going forward. Section 179 most likely going away or going lower. Tax increases. It is very difficult. I mean, you're talking to a legislator and say, where are we going to be at the end of the year? They're not telling you. But frankly, all of our business owners have to sit down with their CPAs and plan this out. And it's very difficult to do it. And going forward in January, there are a lot of potential taxes to hit besides what's happening here in California. So it's tough. So they're with their CPAs. You have some top CPAs here in Orange County, some great firms, and they don't know. They're shaking their heads. They're just trying to. You're just kind of trying to hold on and figure it out. And then when it happens, it happens. But it's going to be a difficult ride.
If you're going to get tax advice from me, you're in big trouble. So.
Well, we got a hint of what might be a response to the next question, and I'm almost afraid to ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And that is, how do the effects of Proposition 30 impact small business, especially in this area, in your opinions? Anybody want to field that one?
I'm going to take a not so obvious answer to that one. I think what we're concerned about is, we talked earlier about moderation and the need for moderation in the state legislature. What we're very, very concerned about is the proposition or the opportunity for the interests that paid to pass Prop 30 coming back and looking for favors, and the pressure that will be put on the state legislature and the governor to respond to that. That's very concerning for us. And so we in the business community and our coalition partners across the board need to work very, very diligently with all of the help of the small business owners in the room and the citizenry that cares about that to make sure that that doesn't occur. Because I can tell you that the groups that paid for Prop 30 don't have the interests that we all share. So there are some very, very big concerns there.
Yeah, the concerns we see are just with that increase, whether I can hire that additional marginal worker. It's very difficult to justify it if my marginal taxes are over 50%, if my healthcare costs are higher, if my energy costs are higher, my costs of doing business are higher, and that's really where it's going to impact. It's going to impact those extra hires, those extra employees that need jobs. I mean, we're talking about Orange County being at 7.1%. Right now, we've had the luxury of being in the 4s in the past, and we could get there, but I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon. The business owners we talk to, we have a business owner that's one of our members, 100 employees a few years ago, down to 24 employees, and they're learning to get by with less. And, entrepreneurs figure out how to do things, but they've learned how to get by with less employees, and that's not a good thing for the job market. So that's kind of what we see impact-wise.
So let's take that response and perhaps turn it on its head a little bit with the following question. Then what opportunities do business owners in the county, perhaps even in the state, have ahead of them that could help contribute positively overall to job growth?
I'm glad you asked that, because I think that was if there's a silver lining, you can make the silver lining. And that sounds trite, but I don't think there's much good as far as policy coming out of Sacramento or the federal government right now. However, I've really been impressed talking with a lot of healthcare groups, hospitals, doctors that operate medical groups, things like that, over the Affordable Care Act. I called it Obamacare on the air, and oh God, the public television audience, I just got savage, disrespectful, and all that. I said Obama's calling it Obamacare. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so let's call it the Affordable Care Act. And my approach, coming after boy, you're getting screwed, aren't you? Isn't this terrible? And I'm so impressed at how these guys are saying, basically, I mean, I'm paraphrasing them now. This is the hand we're dealt. This is the landscape now, and I've been impressed with the ingenuity, the way they're figuring out how they can get a competitive advantage, working the system. And it's the same in business. I mean, I think there are opportunities out there. You just have to look at the fact I'm in a high-tax state that just got higher. It may constrain me here or there, but there's opportunities. There are government programs. I think there will be some money from the state going into things that they think are good for business or that will be good. And so there are things that you can be attuned to. And that's how you do it. And with some of the improvements in technology and things like that, wonderful opportunities. So it's just, I think government, maybe if you look at it, government is just more of a drag on things rather than the end of things. And just look at it that way, because I think there are a lot of opportunities out there.
I'll kind of throw it into one short-term, one long-term. The first one on the short-term side is I think there's a good opportunity for businesses, once again, to work more with local governments to find out how things can be easier, more business-friendly, reduction in business license fees. I mean, I would love it if some cities would step up and say, all right, for every dollar the state's going to take from you, we're going to give back in some sort of almost like to nullify the actions that the state puts together. Secondarily, I think one of the other opportunities that exists for the overall county structure, when I take a look at things like Measure M, that's where Orange County took control of its own transportation and roads and highway system and basically told the state of California, we don't need you anymore. I think there may be other opportunities like that. And granted, this is more longer term, maybe more on the larger business side, but for things like other types of infrastructure, water, wireless communication systems, things like that, where the local control aspect is what may be one of the opportunities for local businesses. And I've been saying this for the past couple of years. This kind of reinforces what Rick said. This state is going to fix itself from the ground up. There is nobody up there that's going to be able to fix this. We don't have, candidly, Diane not included, we don't have the talent up there to do it. With sometime we've just got to be honest with ourselves. The people we send up there, and I always come back to this, and now it's now become one of my big main points that I try to make. I used to work for Intel, $40 billion company. Top executives were making $5, $10, $20 million a year between salary and options. We have a state twice the size, and we've asked our board of directors to live on $90,000 a year. You will get what you pay for. And candidly, I take a look at it. Who in their right mind, are we going to get an executive from Broadcom to go, hey, I'm pulling in $650 a year. Things are going great. I'm going to go to the legislature for $90,000 a year because I need the business card. I don't see that happening. If we want to get some real talent up there, I think we've got to get away from this. And this gets back to your Republican thing. For some reason, Republicans seem to think that running a state government should be like a volunteer job. If we want to get some talent up there, if we want to get the head of Allergan or one of the VPs of Broadcom or any of the other companies, we got to get off our dime and start paying these people some money, because I would not trust anybody that I would send to Sacramento that would do it for $90,000 a year, except Diane. So I think it's a big problem that we have. We've got to stop shooting our own when it comes to that.
Best and the brightest. Any comments?
One of the ways we're trying to help our business, it's not all our business, but some of our businesses that have the capacity, is to open up markets in Mexico and Latin America. We just did a conference back in October at Chapman University. Very comprehensive, from legal structure to finance to angel investors to accounting, all the different things that you would need to expand into your market. And if you have 4.3% GDP growth in Mexico, there's a great market there for certain type of products, obviously, and that's the gateway to the rest of Latin America. So there's certain things we can help when you have flat demand here, or flat customer demand in our region right now. There are other markets you can help your companies expand to. So that's one of the ways that we'll look for those opportunities for them.